All right, so much more to talk about. I feel like we need a whole other panel on this. But Jessica, I want to come to you because you are kind of at the work that you're doing is really at the base of this pyramid, this life cycle that we're talking about. Your work with woman care, and I want you to tell us just what that's all about, how you got interested in maternal health, pregnancy, and equal opportunity.
Well, don't ask about pregnancy. That's private. How she got involved in her pregnancy.
It's not private anymore. We know she's had a baby, and she looks fantastic, by the way.
Thank you. And I mean, that's so interesting that you said the word private, because that's really what we want to do with this campaign, which we're calling, Then Who Will, which comes from the phrase, if you don't tell them, then who will? And that really refers to parents speaking to children, peers speaking to peers, partners speaking to partners, whomever. It's really about education and educating and pulling women's issues out of the shadows, pulling women's reproductive issues really specifically out of the shadows.
And we were talking earlier, I mean, it didn't dawn on me until you said it, but this idea that, all right, so both of us grew up in the US in an affluent society, in homes where there was opportunity and people were talking. Neither of us, and very few others, I think, got any formal understanding of your own cycle, pregnancy, how this might affect you health-wise, physiologically. Tell us why that understanding, both in a rich country like this, but also internationally, is important in terms of equality and opportunity.
Well, I mean, education for everyone is empowerment, and if we can provide the access and the resources for the correct information and the correct education, not only women, but everyone can choose to better their life and make the right decisions for themselves and their families. I mean, that's proven throughout the world. When you give specifically women these abilities to have access to the right information, they then always choose to make these amazing decisions for themselves and their families.
So is early pregnancy generally connected with lower mobility? I mean, is that something that is, managing that, link that up for us with inequality and mobility? When a girl gets pregnant early or doesn't understand about maternal care, what's the fallout of that?
Well, when you don't make the decision yourself to start a family, if you're not saying, I choose this and I want to do this, it changes the trajectory of their life tenfold. I mean, there's a staggering statistic in this country, actually, that I believe it's half of the pregnancies in this country every year are unintended, which is absolutely staggering to me. And I think the reason this is that this issue struck me as so important to talk about and get involved in is when I decided to, when I was thinking about having my own family, and I started to learn about, okay, so I need to now get off birth control, and does it just happen? Is it just that easy? What do I do? And I started to read this incredible book that taught me about my personal, cycle, and I had no idea any of these things that I was reading, and I just felt so embarrassed, and I felt like I couldn't believe that I grew up just like you, in a place that has access to all of this information, and I knew nothing.
So who do you think should be helping us get that information to young girls, to women? Should that be a public sector thing? What can the private sector do, if anything, in this respect, do you think? What can companies do?
Well, I think at least what Women Care Global is trying to do is to say, let us be the curator of resources. Let us drive you to the places that you can get the correct information. I think a big problem is, in the education sector, because half of the states in this country don't even have sex education in their public schools, and even less than half have to be actually medically and technically accurate.
Wow.
Which is really, really also shocking.
That is amazing. Well, and that kind of tees up that incredible statistic that you gave earlier about half of pregnancies being unplanned.